The future doesn't belong to the busiest leader. It belongs to the one who can see it first. Welcome to The Vision Architect, a podcast how bold visions are created, communicated, and turned into reality. I'm your host, Simon Vetter. Welcome to another session of The Vision Architect. I'm honored to have Pete Logan today for our episode. Just a little background. Pete Logan just retired recently of 26 years as a Navy SEAL in the US Navy. As a captain, he was completing a total of 9 deployments. He also spent 4 years overseas in Europe, South America, Japan, Iraq, Afghanistan. And the last 2 years, he was commanding a SEAL team of about 200 to 300 people, preparing, planning, and executing special operation missions. And he retired and now lives in Florida with his wife of 18 years and 3 children. So, Pete, great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks. Great topic to be talking about and looking forward to it.
So we'll dive into vision, mental rehearsal, visualization, resilience. And so when you think of your 26 years of servicing in this Navy, what is an experience that stands out? What was one of the most challenging experience that you can think of that impacted you?
Yeah. I mean, most people, when they talk to SEALs, retired SEALs, they'll hear about stories from BUDS, or basic underwater demolition SEAL training, right? It's pretty intensive training just to get into it. In there, you don't have significant consequences. You're in a training environment. When you're actually out leading troops for real in combat, in training forward, the consequences matter a lot more, and they're pretty significant. And yeah, I'd say one of the most significant events I had in my career was when I was commanding SEAL Team 1 in 2019. We had some guys training up in Alaska, cold weather training, and riding some boats in the middle of the winter in some very rough sea states. And there was a tragic collision between one of our boats. That was about a 45-foot boat, collided with another Coast Guard rib. And the rib was going about 30 knots, broadsided our boat. And one of our guys, who was inches from the bow of the Coast Guard rib when it collided, really took the brunt of the impact and was pinned inside the wreckage. So I, as a commanding officer, he was one of the troop commanders, one of my direct reports, leading a training mission up there in some austere conditions. So I was overseeing it from California. He was on the ground as the forward deployed leader, as he would when we deploy for real, leading this training exercise. So he was immediately unconscious. A lot of guys on the boat were injured. And immediately the guys, thinking on their feet, first tried to save his life, tried to get him out of the wreckage, and had to move him all the way back to the first line of care that they could get him to, because his life was in danger. So I was removed by a couple thousand miles, but immediately had to notify the right people, got in touch with his wife, had to take care of the back end details. And then we flew up there and got to sit with him while he was in his coma, and the rest of the team was recovering from that accident. But it was a very stark reminder, as I've had, unfortunately several times in my career, a reminder of the consequences of the job and how important all the little things are that you do in preparation for training, in preparation for deployment. And this individual was in a coma for months, and one day wiggled his toe. A week later, wiggled 3 toes. A month later, opened his eyes. And 6 months later, he's up and walking, and then was able to walk through the medical retirement ceremony that we had for him. And he's slowly recovering to this day and competing in, Invictus Games and Warrior Games as an injured veteran, and doing inspirational things that you wouldn't believe. So really a testament to the heart of the guys in our community, that they don't give up despite the adversity they come across. They keep fighting. They keep trying to excel and keep trying to serve their country whatever way they can.
And the story illustrates also the life and death situations that you get into. And so in special operations, What's the role of preparation for a mission and have clarity of vision? Can you expand a little bit on that?
A lot depends on the position you're in. For the leader of a mission, and we have so many echelons for approvals of these missions, each leader needs to buy into and be aligned with the vision of the senior commander. And typically the senior commander is the one that has the authority to approve it. And he's the one that issues the commander's intent, a term we use in the military often. And in that commander's intent, there's three key aspects of that. There's the purpose, there's the key tasks, and there's the end state. So a well-planned mission will think carefully about those three things, and a good commander will be able to communicate those clearly so everyone understands that this is the end state we're going for. In other words, the vision we're going for.
So three things: purpose, key tasks, and end state. Can you tell a bit about how the end state is getting clarified and communicated?
Yeah, the end state has to align with all levels, all echelons above us to make sure that end state is a term we use as nested within higher headquarters vision, higher headquarters end state. And you could see how there's a overarching operation, say in Iraq, it was to pacify one region or one province, to use the whole of government to leverage the Iraqis and leverage the population to meet our military objectives. And then each echelon beneath that has to have their own unique vision that supports the overarching one. The commanders that have the approval authority will seek guidance from the higher headquarters and say, hey, this is the end state I'm trying to seek for my mission in this period in time. Do you agree it nests well and it supports your overarching vision? And when you get that approval back, you're free to execute. It's not as simple as that. There's a lot more rehearsals. There's planning, preparation, and making sure the right resources and assets are aligned. But that's generally how the end states at more tactical levels are nested with higher level end states.
How did you apply this concept of visualization to make sure everybody on your team sees and has the same ideal outcome that they strive for?
Yeah, so visualization is a really interesting term that I was introduced to as a competitive athlete in high school and then later in college. And in the SEAL teams, typically everybody in the SEAL teams is some form or fashion of an athlete that has competed before. A lot of high-level athletes coming together to do a new, unique form of teamwork and high-performing organizations. So my first exposure to visualization was as a swimmer in high school. And as we were preparing for the final meets of our season, we'd use visualization as, our coaches wanted us to rest a little bit more, so we're ready for the biggest meets, but also exercise our brains to make sure we were preparing to see what success looked like. And it was an incredible eye-opening exercise where we would lay down after practice in a dark room, close our eyes, and have a clock on the wall. And the clock on the wall we could all see right when we opened our eyes. And the coach would walk us through the entire pre-race rituals, walk through us getting on the block. And we would do all this, visualization with our eyes closed. We'd get up on the blocks, close our eyes, and he would say, go. And right when he said go, the clock would start. And our goal was to see ourselves diving into the pool, doing our first strokes, breathing, struggling, straining, and then doing the flip turn, coming back and touching the wall. And while you're doing that, your muscles are firing, your brain is thinking through every single step, and you're doing as many strokes as you should be doing in the pool. And when you touch at the wall, you should be looking up at the clock at your goal time, the goal time that you should set for the entire season. So obviously the first time you do it, you may be 30 seconds, 40 seconds off. But when we consistently did it every day after practice, we got better and we got better and closer to our goal times. And by the end, the last 3 days before our championship meets, we were hitting our goal times like within tenths of seconds. And it was pretty remarkable. And we're doing these reps mentally. And I'm confident it was saving our energy. Our muscular endurance was saved because we were just doing the reps of the brain to muscle connection while laying there in a dark room. But those were the best performance I ever had by doing those guided visualizations of how to perform like that. And I took that practice into the SEAL teams, and it was already being done just in different levels. We weren't really racing against the clock. We were doing the maneuvers exactly like they should be done, but in a different manner.
Yeah, it's very remarkable. It's like that you kept practicing your competitive swim in your mind over again, and the mind didn't differentiate if it's real or mental. Every mental practice was like a physical practice. That's very remarkable.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're feeling very similar effects. Your body temperature is raised. We were in cold rooms, but we were completely warm enough because we felt like we were straining ourselves in a race. And it's an incredible experience. And it was eye-opening too about the power of the mind and what the mind can do for you in any setting, right? I applied that confidence in my mind's ability to see and visualize exceptional performance to nearly everything else I did after experiencing that.
And it also shows how important it is to practice and do repetition of the practice. How did you apply that in special operations when you prepare for a critical, absolutely high-stake mission?
Yeah.
What were some of the rituals you went through with your team?
Yeah, the first place I saw it applied was in diving. And diving is definitely a high-risk evolution that we conduct all the time. It's one thing that separates SEALs from most other special operations forces is we consider ourselves to be masters of the maritime environment, and especially the undersea. You know, a lot of people can raid targets on land. Very few people can get to those targets by diving for miles and miles undetected underwater in very tough environments, tough temperatures, and arrive safely. So in order to do that insertion method of diving to a target, you have to rehearse it a lot. And every dive we would do what we call dirt dives. And if, say you're inserted at a pier and you're trying to travel, 3 miles to a target location at a different pier, you would very carefully plan the route and understand the tides and currents and depths and any potential obstacles in your way. But doing all that requires a 2-man pair to get out and rehearse exactly what happened. So we would leave the planning rooms and go out to a giant open room, and we would, on the floor, tape out the obstacles that we could potentially face underwater. So we could see what the entire maritime environment in front of us from insertion to target looks like. And then we would actually walk in a smaller scaled environment every single leg. And say I was the one navigating, I would hold a compass on an attack board. I would hold that compass. I would communicate to my buddy without communicating. We would do hand and arm signals and squeezes because he can't talk underwater that well. And we would do the squeeze and we would move a certain distance and then we would turn. And we'd do the squeeze, move a certain distance and then turn. And this is a rehearsal we would do over and over and over until we knew it cold. We were able to visualize all potential obstacles in the way, and doing the dirt dive allowed us to understand, we could be coming at this location as the moon is rising here, and that could be a factor. Or if we're too close to this pier, lights from the pier could give away our location. So the rehearsal of the visualization allowed us to understand more about the threats and opportunities that we could face on our path.
That's amazing. Yeah. How you prepare. What's the emotional resilience and composure that is necessary when you do those preparations?
Yeah, it's something that's built up over time. So obviously, if you're assessed and selected to go to BUDS and then make it through every phase of BUDS, you've built up some resilience and you're able to control your emotions a lot more because you've probably been very stressed out or very frustrated or tired, and you may have reacted in training, but you are immediately given feedback that is not how you need to act because that will get you killed. So you're conditioned to control your emotions a lot better through time. And when you're working on very challenging problems, say a very long dive to a target, you're stuck in the moment of execution. And because you've rehearsed it so many times, you're going step by step. You don't really have the time to think about emotions. You're just executing and you're doing what you're trained. And that's the beauty of our training. We train very hard and we lose guys in training. Like the example I talked about early in this discussion, they were training in the toughest conditions we could find in the United States, tougher than any environments that they would operate overseas. Pitch black, the darkest night of the month. And we had to do that because in the actual environment that you're operating in for real, you want to make it as easy as possible and you want to be as ready as possible. So emotional control is core to who we are from training on. And it starts with the leadership. The leadership has to demonstrate that they are in control and they're confident, and demonstrate that they have the ability to be calm under pressure.
Yeah. And it's when we translate that to businesses or even to life, we talk a lot about resilience. People need to be more resilient and they expect just to do a few things, but we are not always committed to do the training and what it takes. I'm curious, you have 3 young children. How do you teach them resilience and emotional control? And what are some of the ways you apply that to your family?
Yeah. Well, they don't listen to me. No, they're great kids. And it's funny. I have a teenage daughter and 11-year-old son and a 7-year-old daughter, and all great kids. And it's very hard to, all right, hey, I got a class. We're going to teach about emotional control or resilience. I think the way you teach it best is just demonstrating it. They've seen myself and my wife together through some tough times, like in 2019 when we had one of my guys severely injured, and 2 days before that, my wife tragically lost a brother, right? So those are the opportunities, those are the classrooms that we demonstrate what resilience is, and we demonstrate so many more lessons in that adversity. What does community look like? What does faith look like? And we talk to them when we tuck them in at bedtime. And, I'm a big fan of journaling and reflecting on what you've learned. And I'm trying to instill that in my 2 oldest kids. My third kid we're coming along on that. But that's an opportunity where we're coaching them on reflecting yourself on what happened that day. And if we can seed a little nugget of wisdom about, hey, and show some vulnerability, like this is what I went through today. It was a tough day for me. I had to fire somebody and this is what I felt. And these are the emotions I went through. And this is why it matters. This is why it hurts to make this decision. Having those little conversations at night, I think will stick in their brains over time. But yeah, I think the thing they love doing the most is telling us, no, I can't teach you anything. And I don't need you trying to teach me anything, Dad.
Yeah. And there's an element of feedback, especially when you go through the training, and you went through very tough training as a Navy SEAL. Feedback is a way to help people understand and learn. How did you use feedback? Again, let's talk about resilience and mental toughness. How did you use feedback to strengthen those traits?
Yeah. So feedback, you're getting it all the time. And whether you want to receive it and acknowledge it, I think that matters more than getting the feedback. There are times where I got exceptional feedback from bosses, from peers, from senior enlisted guys, and I didn't grasp onto it and really appreciate how powerful and how meaningful and valuable it was. And I wasn't ready in that moment, in a handful of moments, to really appreciate it and use it. As you develop your humility and learn some hard lessons, you cherish that feedback and you seek it out. And you find those opportunities to be vulnerable and go to your, command master chief or your, you name a peer commanding officer and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking of doing to present to my guys. Do you think this is a good idea? Or this is feedback I got from a 360-degree survey. I am going to take these 2 nuggets and build a plan to actually fix this habit. So it takes humility to receive feedback and then a discipline to apply it to your life. Feedback is great and you get a lot of it, But if you're not doing anything with it, it's kind of worthless. And you're losing credibility and losing respect from the people and losing trust if you do not take that feedback. I think one of the most important forms of feedback is just interpersonal relationships. And when you have a communication, you're sitting down and talking to somebody virtually or in person, you're able to pick up on cues of what that person is communicating with you, right? Nonverbal cues are incredibly powerful. And if you're not able to sense those and see those and feel those and then act on those, you're missing a lot of very valuable feedback. I've seen in our community, empathetic leaders are some of the best leaders because they sense what the message is or how the message is being received.
Yeah. Feedback I think is very powerful. I use it a lot. And it's also how you give feedback. And then to your point is, how does the receiver take it? And are they listening? Are they paying attention? Do they use it as a way to learn from it? And sometimes people tend to resist or not wanting to listen. And I think that's to their detriment because they're missing a great opportunity to change something that really helps them and the team.
Yeah. And giving feedback is an art form in itself, and it's different for everybody. You have to first measure what's my level of trust in my relationship with this individual before I give them feedback. Are they ready for it? Do they have the humility and the personality to accept it? And is it that important to, give them this feedback right now? The timing matters. It's an art form. And I think you want to lead them to understanding what needs to be fixed. And if they discover it first, it'll probably stick better than you just saying, hey, do this.
And the better you do it, it also develops a stronger bond and level of trust between the interpersonal relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
What's the role of trust in the team? How do you infuse trust? Because when you do operations, you really have to have each other's back. How do you infuse trust into your teams? If you bring a new team together and they don't know each other, what were some of the practices that you applied to bring this team close together?
Yeah. I've always thought trust is the currency of any leader, and it should be a final goal to have respect of your people, right? And you won't have respect until you first earn their trust. A lot of trust is passed on or built through your reputation. So from day one, you are trying to build your reputation as a SEAL, that you are a team player. You are looking out for your guys if you are a leader, that you will do whatever it takes to suffer strain or persevere for your teammates. That's kind of the remarkable thing about our community. There's so many Medal of Honor recipients in our community, but I'm confident 90+% of the guys, if they were faced in the same situation, would do the same thing and do something unbelievably heroic to sacrifice their lives to save a teammate and accomplish a mission. So having that level of dedication to your teammates, there are opportunities where it can clearly be demonstrated or not demonstrated. So any of those opportunities that come up, you have to take advantage of it and just trust in your training, and you do what's right for your guys. You take care of your teammates, protect your teammates, and then execute the mission. And then your trust builds slowly. And our units will form on average every 2 years or so. Say a platoon will form. We'll work together for 18 months, deploy for 6 months, then come back for a typical SEAL team. In those 18 months when you're training together, that is where you're building trust among everybody. You're learning and challenged in the training environments, but you're also building trust among peers, trust among, leaders to followers. And the point is to suffer together, to train together, to learn together. And then you build up that 18 months worth of trust, and then you deploy. So very rarely will we take an extra person on to that unit unless they absolutely know the standard operating procedures and tactics that this unit will use. And then there's even tougher trust that is tested when you start working with foreign partners. So you have to build in deliberate barriers, firewalls sometimes between partners to make sure that each unit is accomplishing their side of the mission. They're contributing their own way, but you're still safely separated, so to speak. So trust is key, and not having that trust leads to lack of respect in leaders. It leads to breakdown in good order and discipline, and it leads to casualties on the target. And so, yeah, we do whatever it takes to build that trust and maintain it.
Yeah. And I like what you said. Trust is a currency of leadership. And it also shows like you spent 18 months together in the midst and struggles and training. So it takes time. You deliberately get together to infuse and build that trust. And it's not just you're on a team, you're supposed to trust each other. That's not how it works.
No, it takes time. And it's amazing the level of trust you have once a team is functioning at the highest capacity. You know the silhouettes of your teammates when you see them in a completely dark room, and you know that this guy has my back when there's a shooter down the hall, and you know that this other guy brought the right charges to the problem and knows how to set them safely and knows where to move us so we're not within range that we would get fragged from an explosion. So, but it's a beautiful thing when the guys are working together. And it's one of the things that I think attracts team guys to staying in the community and working with teammates of this level, and why so many guys have a hard time leaving the community. It's a powerful thing, and it's a great camaraderie, great brotherhood.
Yeah. And it's a tightness. It feels family. And again, you get each other's back, and you have people who have all the commitment for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you retired about a year ago, and after 26 years, I mean, you really create an identity as a commander and captain in Navy SEAL, and now you're moving into civil life. How has that transition been for you?
It's challenging, to be honest. Being a SEAL is something I wanted to do my entire life. And, from a young kid, competitive athlete, I wanted to go to the Naval Academy just to become a SEAL. So probably from the age of 10, I knew what SEALs were, got serious about competing to be one at the age of 17, and then finally became one at about the age of 25, I think. So from age 25 until almost 50 something, I was in that community, and they protected me. They protected my family. I did the same in return, and I was willing to risk my life for it for decades. When you have that much dedication for a community, for a family, for a tribe, and then you all of a sudden retire and leave and try and find something else. And not to mention, I moved, 3,000 miles away for, to be closer to my other family. It's tough. It's not easy. And it is something that our community has identified as something we need to address. And we've had incredible nonprofits help us manage that transition a little bit better, especially before we get out. And then we've had fellow SEALs that have retired that have been stepping it up and connecting some of these communities. Like, I had beers last night with some SEALs that have retired before me, but understood the transition and understood how hard it was, and understood that sometimes as a SEAL leaving the community, the thing that can help you the most is talking to more SEALs about it who have done it successfully and have weathered the storm of transitioning. So I've been lucky to fall into a retired brotherhood out here close to my house, and they've been great people, and I'm trying to help them back too. So it's a work in progress, and I'm maybe a year into the transition so far, but learning every step of the way and trying to find opportunities to pass that on to other guys that are about to get out.
Yeah. And it shows like it's a huge life transition. And again, it's about redefining, it's reinventing. And I think the key here is it's important to have a support group behind us, to have people who can really help us making that shift.
Yeah. Having a family behind you, immediate family, is incredible. And I've been blessed to have very supportive wife and kids. Kids are demonstrating resilience every day, just dealing with a giant move, taking them from one school to another, but they're adapting and they're learning from the adversity.
Yeah. Now you're moving into performance coaching. You work with athletes, captains of teams, and then also in businesses. So when you work with young athletes, what do you want to teach them? And what do they need that they can take from all your experience?
Yeah. Thanks for asking that. It's a new adventure, a new endeavor of mine that I'm passionate about. And I've always been passionate about leadership as someone who I've always wanted to lead better at every level. And I've made plenty of mistakes like every good leader should, and learn from them. And I'm focusing on teaching leadership to sport team captains, high school, college levels at a minimum. And none of these team captains have been taught leadership, right? And none of the coaches are trained or hired to teach leadership as well. So I think there's a need there to get the leaders of these teams able to lead peers better, able to lead a cohesive team that has a great team culture. It's fascinating too how much these team captains want to learn. They're really eager to become better, just like they want to become better at their sport and be more competitive. They're buying into the value of leadership as a multiplier of a team's performance. And I've seen it. I was lucky enough to be a team captain in high school twice, and then a D1 level in college. And again, I was not taught how to lead these teams. And I look back on it and I think, man, we could have performed so much better if I was able to maybe be a little bit more patient with some conversations, or be a little bit more direct with other conversations, and really think about my communication and my delivery, my passion for leading and passion for setting an example for the team. It could have made, incredible differences in the team culture and cohesion that we've had. But it's going well, and I can't wait to see where it goes. And, on that, I've also been coaching first responders as well through a company called Sharpen. And it's a company that brings in ex-special operations guys and also ex-first responders to coach and mentor currently active first responders, typically police and firefighters. And I get opportunities to get on a call similar to this and just chat with these guys. I share my background and experiences, and I'm vulnerable with what I've dealt with in my community and in my time serving in high risk profession. And these guys are able to open up and share what they're dealing with. And we start a conversation, we build rapport, we build a relationship, and we start healing, and we keep them thinking about what matters in life and help keep them on the line and supporting our communities even more. So it's really been fulfilling for me to help these guys out. And I think between coaching team captains, a little bit of executive coaching, and coaching first responders, it's filling a void in my life of helping others and staying connected to an art and a science of leadership that matters so much in life today.
Yeah, and I can see that all those who you teach, they can be lucky and fortunate to have you, because you can bring in all your wealth of experience and learning and being out there in critical and high-stakes situations. If you could teach every professional, every executive, one key principle that you learn from special operations, what would that be?
Yeah, narrowing it down to one is tough. I think if I focused on the leaders, I would have them honestly and truthfully focus on how your leadership development is going. If you're put in charge of anybody, you should really be taking that to heart. Whether, in industry, business, military, you're a fire chief, you have a great responsibility and a great opportunity in front of you to mold the future, to shape your legacy by making the people that you're leading better. So take the time to really think about how good of a leader am I now? What do I need to work on to get better? And what resources do I need to access to do that? I think, if there is better leadership out there, and I really focus on leadership with character, because I don't think you're a good leader if you don't have strong character. So if you're able to get good feedback on how you are leading and able to apply those lessons with humility, with some grit and determination, you're going to do incredible things. And you're not going to get all the compliments from your subordinates right away. It's a humbling experience being a leader, but you will see change in yourself, change in your people, and you will see progress, whether that's progress is, increased revenue, more clients, more success on the battlefield, you name it. You're going to see results. It's a grind, and it takes some time, and it takes some humility to learn those lessons.
Yeah. It's interesting when people get promoted into roles, sometimes they assume the promotion is that to give them the power and responsibility to lead. But I think, to your point, we got to be honest, assess what do I bring and where do I have gaps, and how do I fulfill my role with full responsibility to serve. And I think the development piece is so important, that we also reach out for help and say, hey, this is what I'm good at here. I need to get better. I need help. And I think that humility is so critical. And I think the military teaches that.
Yeah.
And sometimes in businesses, I don't see that all the time.
That's interesting. And, one thing I always come back to at the start of any time I talk with anyone about leadership is making sure they know that leaders are made, they're not born, right? Obviously, you need some basic fundamental things that you're born with will help you be a better leader. I'm not talking about charisma. I'm not talking about looks or height or anything like that. Leadership is built, and there are core skills that you can double down on, that you can work on, that you can improve and see results in. So I think believing that encourages me and should encourage other leaders that they can do a better job and they can help their team out even more by leading better.
Yeah. Any last final advice or recommendation for the listeners, that any one specific tip that you would give the audience?
I've learned a ton in my career. I think the one that is most unique and probably different than most SEALs is my experience in meditation. And I never really thought I would learn this in the SEAL community. I learned it through, access to a sports psychologist that we worked through. But the ability to, we talked about visualization and how much confidence I gained in the power of the mind to overcome things and the power of the mind to lead you on a journey. Going through meditation has shown me even more, as I'm, a novice in the art of it, that the power of the mind to kind of calm yourself and make you a better person by, flushing out the extra thoughts and the negative thoughts. But having a disciplined practice, learning from others that know meditation, I think has probably saved my life and saved my marriage and made me a better leader, better person. And that's the next thing I'm focusing a little bit more energy on for myself as I develop as a person, a dad, a husband, a father, a leader going forward.
Yeah, it's that mindfulness. For me, it's also be intentional, what we think, how we think, and how we extend that to the people around us. That kind of leads to composure and trust. And thank you for that. It's a great reminder. And we all can strengthening that muscle in our brain.
Yeah. Yep. Plenty of muscles to strengthen, but just starting there is a good start. Yeah.
Pete, thank you so much for the conversations. This has been so insightful, amazing. Thank you for all your service. Thank you for your wisdom. Where can we find you?
I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook and talking to other mentors. I know I need to increase my exposure a little bit more on social media, but the Ascend Leadership Group is the company I founded to focus our coaching of team captains and executives. And through Ascend, I think we'll make some good progress. So thanks for asking.
Awesome. Best of success in your career. I really appreciate it. I feel honored to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much. Have
Thanks,
a great
Simon.
day.
Take care.
Thank you for listening. I am Simon Vetter, and you have been listening to The Vision Architect. If this episode sparked new ideas, share it with someone you care. Until next time, keep imagining the future you want to create and start building it.